Hey guys, welcome to another episode of PG Comics where we're continuing our discussion on I almost said Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder's Batman, which is an amazing run. I'm Mark Bridge and I'm here with Zach Worsner.
That's me.
Right, so this episode we're covering issues 7 to 12, which is the rest of the Court of Owls story. Well, this one's actually titled Night of the Owls, but it's all one. Court of Owls, Night of the Owls is all one big Court of Owls saga. The first half of it was basically Batman discovering the Court of Owls and almost getting his ass whooped by one of them.
Oh, he definitely got his ass whipped.
Yeah. Now this one is basically now it's war. Now the owls are like, all right, Batman beat one of our peoples. Let's send them all out. Let's go to war. And not only are they going to war with Batman or Bruce Wayne, which remember the last time we asked the question, do they know that they're one and the same? And we found out this episode they didn't know that he was Batman. They
Mm-hmm.
basically sent the owls after, well, the Talons I should say, after the big wigs of Gotham City that shaped the city, Bruce being one of them, and then city officials, James Gordon, a bunch of other people, which got saved by. This is like where the crossover issues come in, which I didn't read for this one, but like Nightwing, uh, I think Red Hood,
Yeah, I
Teen
didn't.
Titans.
I didn't read those either, but I did look up and see kind of what the issues were,
Mm-hmm.
and so this week at some point, I do want to go back and read those because
Because I did read them the first time I was reading this whole storyline because it was coming out at the same time, so I felt the hype of the crossover, so I did read them. But you don't necessarily need to read them to understand what's going on in the story because they kind of just give you the gist of what their purpose in the story is
yeah,
going to be.
and to be honest, I kind of wouldn't want to well, because I did read the Batman annual that
Right,
was kind of listed in on DC Universe app as
right.
kind of part of the story, and it was really good, but
Uh-huh.
it was also like like it stops the story to do this side story with Mr. Freeze that's like 40 pages long, where I'm kind of like, okay, this is really interesting, but can we not right now? Can we go back to? He's like, now it's personal. I'm taking the fight to them.
Actually,
Meanwhile, Mr. Freeze.
because I didn't read that because it actually comes at the end of my in the omnibus. It's
Huh.
right after issue 12 that issue comes in. So it's really that shows you because when they sort of create these omnibus or omnibuses, I can never get the what it is supposed to be. They kind of well sometimes they don't really give a shit in the story issues here and there, but I think for the special ones they talk to the writers, the authors, and say, hey, how do we what's the reading order of these things? And I think the fact that they put it at the after issue 12 really shows the importance of it where they're like, yeah, it's not it stops the pace of this story if you read it in between any of these Night of Owls issues. So yeah, I didn't even read it yet. That's so I guess I'll read it on my own time, but we won't necessarily discuss it for uh unless you want to. I mean, when we
We can get there if it's important. I mean, I liked it. Okay, all right. Okay.
so yeah, I'll read it and we can discuss it if, in our next
Yeah, yeah, we can save it.
yeah.
And it definitely, now that you mention it, it does feel like it takes place, after.
Right, right. But then so pretty much after the Talons go out and try to attack the rest of the officials, they go to Wayne Manor to try to get Bruce, and then each of them are discovering, oh wait, you've been keeping a secret there, Brucey boy.
Mhm.
And the secret is that he's the freaking Batman. He's the
Yeah.
goddamn Batman.
How lucky are they that they sent literally everyone there to get Bruce Wayne?
Right.
And kudos to Alfred for being like, I got this, Bruce.
Yeah, yeah.
And you gotta imagine that he's just like saying, "Oh, please, please, Bruce, say that you'll take care of it."
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, what are you gonna do, Alfred? I mean, I know you're cool and stuff, and you are younger than most Alfreds.
yeah.
as kind of shown by that those little stories that are at the end that seem
Right.
to have a different, if not a different artist, then at least a very different art style.
Yeah. What's his name? Uh, Tyrone third, the third, James Tyrone or James Tyrion or James Tyrone the third, one of them, or fourth, one of them. Yeah, he does like the backup issues. So he took over as main artist for one issue, for the issue 12, which is basically the epilogue of the entire story. Um,
There's a very DCAU style, visual to it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, they basically sent, because you think about it, right? Why did they send so many Talons after Bruce? And then you remember, oh yeah, because Bruce actually escaped death in the Wayne Tower, or was it one of the towers?
Yeah.
He escaped that, so they figure, oh, Bruce isn't to be trifled with. Let's make sure we kill this dude and send more of you guys to his mansion. And he's a rich dude, so he probably has security up the ass. So that's probably why they sent
Yeah.
so many people. But yeah, he really had some security. Like, how about that big mech bat suit?
That was cool. It's there's a great shot. Hold on. I think I might have. There were a couple of images I screenshotted for lines, but it's a cool thing where he says, kind of, this is like my most powerful bat suit, but
Yeah,
the fact that I'm using it means that I failed.
right, right.
Like, if we're at this point, then I messed up.
And then he also said this is the time, this moment, because he knows exactly what his enemies are. That this is one of the few moments he gets to unleash, pretty much. Like,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, it's funny. He's like, the no kill rule, but they have a healing factor. But it's like, do they have like Wolverine level healing factors? Because it looks like he like explodes that guy with his like taser.
he probably.
And it's like, I don't know if that guy's gonna recover from that. I don't know. Although, it's implied, because then, jumping forward to the end, the villain, seems to like almost literally explode,
Yep.
but he's apparently fine.
Mhm.
Because you don't find the body, you don't find the body, no body, no crime.
Yep.
Nobody, no crime. Uh, but yeah, he definitely is cutting loose in a way that you don't really get to see. Usually it's what's the line from this? This is the operating theater, and I'm the doctor or something.
Right.
From Dark Knight Returns, whatever that line is.
Yeah.
But this is like Batman desperate in a way that we don't see him.
Mhm. Mhm.
And oh gosh, right at the very beginning, there's he's so scared at the very beginning. What
Oh
what happened?
yes. Yeah. So in the beginning, he apparently, he gets waken up by this girl, a small girl, but then you get a bigger story of how she came to be in the epilogue. So he gets waken up. I guess she used some electricity forming of. It seems to be running on some form of electricity. That's wrong. Yeah, yeah. He gets waken up by that electricity, and then he's like, I thought I told you to stay away, blah blah blah, and he goes away. And then he gets into a secret part of the Batcave. Alfred gets him, brings him into the Batcave, and he sees Talon, and he freaks out. Like, maybe it's happened in other issues, but I haven't read every Batman issue, so I wouldn't be able to tell. But like, this is the first time I've seen it in any Batman issue of him just freaking the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And one thing I like about it is that it shows that he doesn't have that comic book Batman doesn't have the makeup under his cowl.
yeah, yeah,
Because it just shows the eye.
yeah.
And I really like the makeup in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
even though, like, I think we've discussed this before, how in the movies whenever he takes off his mask,
There's no makeup.
there's no makeup.
Yeah.
And like after seeing Kick-Ass, where Nicolas Cage has like a amazing scene where he's putting on the makeup,
Yeah.
to get ready, it's like you can't go back.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have the makeup. It's gotta be part of the ritual.
Yeah, yeah.
Like putting on the war paint. But that's not terribly important. But what is just that how shook
Mm-hmm.
he is from getting wrecked.
Yep.
Even though he manages to escape with his life, it's like he knows that it's luck and that he's not ready for a rematch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course, then because it's a Batman comic, he's like, "No, I will not go to sleep. Let me do the autopsy."
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then
Come on.
and then you get to actually find out what the extent of the damage was done to him. You didn't realize that his eyes were damaged. He had a conjunctival. Some it was a
It,
word.
they say some medical
Some
stuff.
yeah, some hemorrhaging in his eyes or some shit like that. Where
And just seeing how gaunt he is.
yeah.
Actually, I do want to call out the art on one instance. Uh, when I was reading the first half,
Mhm.
I just kind of chalked it up to like an artistic thing,
Mhm.
but Bruce Wayne's hair is a little wilder than I would have liked.
Oh, okay.
Um, because it's kind of like that in this back half
Right.
also, and I think it would have been better if he was a lot more slick early on to
Mm.
kind of because they do a great job with like showing how skinny his face is. Like,
Yeah.
he's so gaunt. Like, he looks, like he went 12 rounds,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and lost, or at least didn't win.
Yeah.
But I think the hair, they probably, I'm sure they had their reasons.
Mhm.
Uh, but I feel like at least Batman's Bruce Wayne is someone who, you know, will slick back his hair to A, conceal his identity,
Mhm.
and B, you know, just that's like putting on the cowl also, kind of slicking back the hair,
Right. Right.
giving himself that its own kind of helmet, its own kind of armor.
So you're saying it was too wild in the beginning or too
Yeah,
wild
it was too much
towards?
at the beginning.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right.
And I feel like in the end, when it is like down, when he's in the Batcave with his hair down,
Mhm.
it's less effective
Right.
than
Yeah.
than it would have been if it was like markedly different from in the first few
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, I should have drawn it because I'm way better. No,
Alright.
just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So, for the most part, the first three issues or so probably dealt with the whole fight between the Talons. And then he manages to survive that fight, and then he's like, all right, now I'm gonna burn their house to the ground because I know where they live. When he finds them, they're all dead. Apparently it looks like it was suicide, but he just didn't buy that. Something didn't smell right. And learning from the great Henry Ducard.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Question about that. That's another thing that I screenshotted.
Right.
Is Henry Ducard the same as
No.
Ra's al Ghul?
So
Because I only know him from
yeah,
Batman
in the comic
Begins.
books, Henry Ducard and Rachel Gould are two separate
Different
entities.
characters. Okay.
Yeah.
They tricked us.
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of
That's
fact, they did something very creative in Batman Begins, in that they made Liam Neeson look like Henry Ducard and look like Ra's al Ghul. For some reason, it's like they managed to kind of mesh the two. Because he does look a little bit, at least, I mean, it depends on what artist takes over and draws Henry Ducard. Like, he could look like Liam Neeson's, the way how he looks. Or he could look younger, or I think in this run you'll meet him too.
okay. Yeah, I imagine he's a Sherlock Holmes type,
Yeah,
right?
so, more of a Liam Neeson in A-Team's kind of look.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he has, I guess, that more of an attitude
Uh,
than a pipe smoking, monocle wearing.
he's more of a cigar chomper.
Yeah. But yeah, he learned from him and realized that all right, there's something else going on here. There has to be more to it. And it turns out Lincoln March, who actually in an earlier issue was one of the names on the list of Talons to kill. And he supposedly died by the hands of one of the Talons, but it turns out no, he faked his death. He was actually a member of. He was supposed to be a Talon, right? Not just a member of the Court
Yeah,
of
although
Owls.
the way he says it when Batman is deducing it, he's like,
Yeah,
"No, I didn't fake my death. I just have
the
the serum in
the
me, so
serum,
I'm
yeah.
good. I can come back."
Um, and then he basically dropped a huge bomb on Batman. Said, "Listen, man, I'm more than just Link. Well, Lincoln March is pretty much an alias. Doesn't exist.
He's Liquid Batman.
Yeah, I'm your brother, right? And the way how the story ends is you're still not sure. There's evidence to suggest he's lying, but there's also just the idea that he could possibly still be his brother. Like that he has no DNA to really test it out on, and he's going to be left with that doubt. And I'm sure
Which I gotta say, I do find that a little bit hard to believe, to be honest.
that
That
he had.
that Batman, that Bruce Wayne doesn't have any of Lincoln March's DNA,
I
like
mean,
from all of their meetings, and from fighting him at the end, from going to the morgue and
well,
seeing
when he was
his
fighting him, he pretty much
they did have
was
the armor.
it's the armor suit. When he was meeting, I don't think Bruce is that much of a freak to to collect every DNA of everyone he's ever visited. That'll just put him in
Yeah, but like then if he does,
a
then it's like, well, of
sociopathic.
course, Batman. He's always prepared. He's always got everyone's DNA.
Right.
You can't have it both ways, Mark.
That makes him. That makes him. That makes him sinister,
He
Mister
is.
Sinister. If he's there collecting DNA of every single person he's met, I don't know. It'll probably be too much on the brain. There's certain limits of Batman. I don't think it's stretched
Sure.
that far. But
But
I mean,
but I do like that that ambiguity. At least the way I saw it with that particular instance. Whether he's like he says that he wants. He's like, I will find some of his DNA. I will
right.
find evidence. I will find the truth. But I feel like that's kind of chest puffery of kind of like I really don't want to find out. Ugh.
No question. And I'm curious. I'm trying to figure out if I'm Mandela affecting here. Isn't there Lincoln March? Didn't Lincoln March show up in one of the Arkham games as a side quest at least?
Not that I can remember.
I'm trying to remember who was. Unless it was Hush. Did Hush show up? Like
Yeah.
Thomas Elliott?
Yeah, Thomas
Okay,
Elliott
so I'm probably
is definitely
confused.
in City and Night.
Yeah, so I guess I'm confusing the two. Like I'm wondering if Lincoln March did show up in one of them, but
Well,
I think it's Thomas Elliott.
I mean, and Lincoln March is original to this arc, right?
Yeah, he was.
So
But
they wouldn't have even,
yeah, but this came out before Night, I think.
yeah, it came out before Night, but not City. City was 2011.
Right. So hold on. Let me see. Let me just make sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a name drop somewhere because those games are so dense
Yeah.
with lore and mythology.
Let's see.
I found Constantine's shop in Arkham City and was like, or Arkham Knight, and was like, oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he showed up in any other thing. Yeah,
But
it's
he
probably
does.
just a Mandela
It's
effect.
cool that they have those poster. Are those released as separate issues, or are they kind of just in the back of the issue? If you were to buy them,
But it was in the back. The backup stories were in the back of the issues.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a regular thing for comics where basically if you want to, you have the writer has more story to tell, but don't know where to place it. They'll do like a backup story, and it's also a way to showcase up and coming artists where they're like, all right, we're gonna give you either the cover or like a backup issue to kind of get you warmed up for when we give you a main book to be on. That's where some of the best artists were discovered in terms of like, oh, some of the fans are loving this guy's art. Let's put him on a book. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's like either you're a fill-in artist, a backup issue artist, or a cover artist, and you get a book after.
Mm. But like in that backup story, they say that Thomas Wayne Jr.
He was born premature.
Right, and
Yeah.
the car accident happens on the corner of Lincoln and March, and that's me reading it, going, "Oh, they got me!
Yeah.
Good, well played,
Yeah.
well played, comic, well played. You got me." I love when I gasp while reading or watching anything, because I always go, you got me."
Yeah.
Totally.
So the question is, would you like it to be his brother, or would you prefer like, nah, he's just lying? Like, what would you like the ultimate goal of the story to be?
I really like the last scene in the book, or I guess the second to last scene, I should say,
Right.
of Bruce and Alfred in the garden looking at all the different graves.
Yeah.
Oh no, that is the last scene. Yeah.
Right.
because he says, whether or not I have the same blood as that guy or that guy has the same blood as my father.
He died.
Uh,
You.
yeah, he died, and I had a brother for one night,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. And then he died. Whatever this guy is, he's twisted beyond being part of my family, which is like, there's so much psychosis just in that whole dialogue of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, he's your brother, man. It's like, but hey, he's not your brother.
Yeah.
So like, does that mean that he should be treated different than another criminal? Does it
Right.
mean he should be treated worse than another criminal?
Right.
Especially if, does he consider himself your brother, or does he consider that just to be a weakness to exploit?
Mm.
Um, so whether or not there's blood between them, um, if anything, it'll make Bruce go even harder on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not easier, which is, a strength, but also a weakness of Bruce, being the kind of person who, um, he's someone who holds his family very dearly because they are this pillar of sainthood
Mm-hmm.
that, like, even if they mess things up, which I don't know if that's ever really a story. I'm sure Thomas Wayne has ghosts in his closet.
Mm.
Uh, Before he died, I know there's something. He's got some kind of relationship with the Penguin. Their families kind of go back.
Yes. It was the three top families, or rich, powerful families in Gotham. There were the Waynes, the Cobblepots, which is Penguin's people. I think it was the Falcons. Either were the Falcons or the Elliots.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it was the Falcons. That were like the top families in Gotham. But of course, the other two kind of fell off with their offspring, kind of sullying the names. Falcon being like more went in the way of organized crime, and Cobblepot, Penguin sort of also going in crime, but not organized particularly, but more underworld.
Yeah.
He's like a go between, which I think was always like an interesting aspect. I wished Batman stories outside of the comics would kind of delve into. I think Gotham sort of did it, but in a weird way. In that Batman, he never usually fights Penguin. Penguin is never an antagonist per se. He's always like this guy that Batman goes to and just says, "Hey, I heard this is going on in the city. You got the inside the ears into it. I want to know." And it's basically like feeding him information and stuff like that. Like, cause he knows, cause I guess Penguin kind of like realizes who Batman is and realizes that he has to kind of play the game. He has to kind of like, he can't just be outward, just like, oh, I'm gonna take over the city, or I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, because Batman will stop him all the time. So he has to play it very carefully, and I think because Batman knows he's playing the game so carefully, he's playing the game with him, in
Mm.
that he'll use him. They both use each other to kind of like survive, basically.
Yeah, I could definitely see Penguin being the kind of criminal who knows how far he can go
Mm-hmm.
before drawing the wrong kind of heat.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that, I guess, the idea in like the Arkham games and in Batman Returns,
Yeah.
although Batman Returns is very, very different,
Yeah.
but the stories that have Penguin as a villain usually, I would imagine, are him going, all right, now it's time for me to spread my penguin wings and fly.
Right.
And then Batman's like, no, no, you do not.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, you beat me.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Not my-
yeah. So, going back to Night of Owls, do you think, especially that the end fight between him and Lincoln, was kind of stretching the limits of believability? Especially, it's basically jumping into old James Bond territory here. Like, this dude, Batman, was in the what do you call it? The turbine?
Yeah, the turbine engine of the jet, and he's holding on for dear
Yeah.
life. Which, like, I don't know how strong those things pull. Like, I don't know if it's like because in the movies, sometimes they can hold on, and sometimes they get,
Yeah.
sucked in from like 30 feet
Yeah,
away.
like and it's
Where
super
I'm like,
fast.
I don't know. I know they spin really fast, but I don't know if,
Yeah.
what their suction power is.
Hmm.
Like they say, they say in real life in space, if like there's a hole in the shuttle, you can fix it with your hand. Like you can put your hand over it and you'll be good.
Oh wow, and you won't basically suck your hand
Yeah.
out.
Um, like that was originally how Alien was supposed to end.
Oh,
And
okay.
then they realized it was too unrealistic, so they didn't do it. Didn't stop Alien Resurrection from using the exact same thing in its ending,
Yeah, yeah.
but that was carried over from the first movie. Or like Scott, like they use uh, duct tape to you know patch over holes in spacesuits,
Mm-hmm.
and it works.
Right, right.
Um, so I think it's a thing where I personally don't mind. Like if it's cool and if it looks cool, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in. I'd say the more egregious than whether or not it's plausible
Yeah,
is just the whole idea that to make it happen, they have March rip off his cape earlier.
yeah, yeah,
Where it's kind of like, haha, now we can avoid an incredible situation
yeah. And
where
yeah,
it's kind of like, all right, all right. I
yeah.
know you wanted to have that image, but was it worth having Batman lose his cape in an unlikely fashion?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe.
And then the other thing was that when he's falling, he's like, "Oh, the suit is out of power. You need power for that
I
suit."
didn't know he had batteries.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, I guess
Like,
this
is it
suit."
like a power armor? Like,
I
kind of
have
like.
no idea. But then, how does he say? Wait, where does the high velocity? Because I couldn't really tell from the art. Maybe I'm just blind or couldn't really interpret it well. Like where it says the high velocity
Bat rope.
bat rope, whatever. Where did that come from? His suit? Did it come from the city? Like a little special
I
part
think
in the
it's
city?
from his utility belt.
Okay.
It's weird that he announces it. It's a little anime.
Yeah.
High velocity bat rope.
Yeah.
But with those kinds of things, I feel like they're kind of just like if they were to make that into a movie, they
Yeah.
wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of written for the reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in comics you want to tell as much as you can through the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you have to. I don't know. I feel like they didn't even have to. They could just let it be a regular, bat,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, is bat grapnel,
Yeah. Yeah.
grapple hook. We would have been fine with it
Yeah.
without having it be, high velocity bat rope.
Yeah. Your
Regular
mic.
bat rope is fine.
Your mic. Fix it.
Yeah, I used a new wire too.
You got anywhere, or you need one still?
I had another one, and I plugged that one in. But I guess I don't know. I got to figure out what the deal is.
I don't know. Is it plugged into? Is it a USB 3.0 connection? It's supposed to
Uh,
be maybe.
I don't know.
It's the blue that the ones that look blue.
Oh, the,
Um,
the connector? No,
yeah.
no,
Okay. All right.
no. It's an old one. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Probably. So yeah. And then the backup stories were pretty cool too. With the whole Alfred's dad,
Who's
Jarvis.
Jarvis, which is very funny.
I was like, oh yeah,
I,
was that on purpose? I don't remember Alfred's dad being called Jarvis, but then I don't remember ever them mentioning that. I don't know if it was canon, if it was a canon thing. I think this was done because again, remember it's a new DC 52. They were kind of rewriting history a little bit, so I don't know if this was a new thing because the way how they said they always talk about Alfred in any other mediums is that he's always been with the family even before Bruce was born.
yeah, there's a much younger Alfred than usual. He's
Yeah,
balding, which makes him look older, but I feel like he's not more than like 50.
probably. So yeah, so I guess for the Scott Snyder's version of Batman, Bruce Wayne, Alfred joined the family after Bruce was born. Like he was like what 4 or 5 or 6, one of those age when he came because Jarvis, it's crazy he's called Jarvis. Jarvis died because the owl killed him because he didn't want to kill Martha Wayne. Which is, I find it admirable is like he gets threatened, but then immediately goes to Martha, which you never usually see in like stories. Like you always see like whoever is being threatened goes through like a crisis, a dilemma. Is like, okay, should I do it? And they sweat it out for a little bit before they either tell or they go along with the plan. He just like, oh, okay, and he goes straight there and say, yeah, they want me to straight up murder you. It was like,
which
oh,
is
wow.
the right thing to do in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
I imagine.
So, because it puts less stress on him. Granted, it got him killed, but yeah, I guess it put less stress. His blood pressure wasn't that high. He just
Well,
worried a lot.
and he did his job. I mean, he felt like
Yeah.
he owed the Wayans and he would protect them at any cost, and he did.
Yep. Yep.
Granted, they wound up getting killed a couple years later, but that's not important right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the. We're gonna get to the epilogue in a few, but like that was the big wrap up. So, what do you think? How it wraps up? You're satisfied with how it wraps up, or?
I am satisfied. It doesn't feel like it's over. It
Right.
feels like, it's one of those things where it feels like the end, but also, the next arcs, whatever direction they take, I feel like the Court of Owls will still be a lingering, shadow over everything that happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I feel going into it now.
I mean, you gotta be more. I guess as a reader, I guess you have to have that confidence in Scott to kind of make sure he wraps up that story, because at the end you find out that, well, before it ended, you find out that the ones that died were just a small cell, so to speak, of the court. But then towards the end, now it says that, well, they're pretty much scrambling now. They're bleeding money. He did some damage to their infrastructure so much that they're pretty much on their run.
At the very least, they're out of Gotham.
Yeah, yeah. So,
which means that they'll be back.
Yeah, so they'll.
I feel like they're that's the kind of the thing with Batman to begin with, is that he's not, he aims to wound, not to kill, because he appreciates the sport of the hunt.
Yeah.
So he's like, I've driven them out of Gotham. Maybe if I worked really, really hard, I could follow them to their source and take them out. But instead, I'll wait until they bring the fight back to me, so we can repeat this beautiful dance once again.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, although it does have a more triumphant tone than honestly than I was expecting, but also than a lot of other Batman stories where he succeeds. I guess my only experience being like the Frank Miller stuff where he succeeds, but usually at the cost of his own, psychosis.
Yeah, it's always like that bittersweet type ending. Yeah.
And this has a more triumphant tone.
Yeah. I guess because it's just the beginning of his run, he can't end it too sour. He has to give you a little bit of hope before he breaks you, right?
Yeah, and I imagine that breaking will probably come next. Just by looking at the covers, it looks like Joker will be part of the next arc, and
So one of the things I liked too about this, it's actually started in the first half. They mentioned it a little bit, but that this really came into fruition with the whole Bat versus Owl situation, where they're like, in reality, I don't know if this is true. Maybe it is true that the prey. Bats are the prey for owls. Like owls would eat them, especially certain types of owls, the tiger owls. And that they really use this kind of dichotomy between the two species in the story. When, especially in that cave, when Bruce asked them like lower the temperature while they're slow, and it looks like he was about to get his ass kicked, and it turns out because it's so cold in the cave, it brought all the bats in to just like finish them off, and it was like, yeah.
It's the upside, I guess, the bitter irony of Batman, who takes out the vermin of the city while dressed as a very famous type of vermin.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't stomp it out. You know, you can try to get rid of bats just like you can try to get rid of roaches, just like you can try to get rid of rats.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you run out of spray, or as soon as your traps lose their effectiveness, they're gonna show up
They're gonna
again.
come back. Yep.
And
And they
you know that's
come
something
back with
that
vengeance.
yeah, and it works to Batman's advantage
Yeah.
in this case
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, yeah, you guys, you know, owls are the natural predators. In like the first issue, or I suppose issue 7,
Mm-hmm.
you know, begins with the really kind of graphic thing of the owl eating the bat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's like, yeah, they are the natural predators, but that doesn't mean that the bat is a defenseless
Yeah.
prey.
Yeah.
That the bat can fight back and can overcome the odds, and you know, turn the tables on that natural order,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what Batman does by his very existence.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that I really love that story. I loved basically the second half of this just made the entire Court of Owls story one of the best Batman stories written, and I think it's a testament to Scott Snyder's writing in terms of like how he made. Oh, what? What did he drop?
The PS4,
Wow.
but it went against the computer and kind of slid down, so it didn't like crash to the floor or anything.
Right. Jesus.
That's my cat,
Yeah.
Howard, who is a menace.
So hopefully, so yeah, it's a testament to his writing to make the Court of Owls so impactful that they're like actually now a staple of Batman's rogues gallery, right?
I know that they were in the show Gotham, but I
Yeah.
didn't watch that, so I don't know what role they played.
And then a lot of people actually want to see them in the movies, but may or may not happen. We don't know what Matt Reeves has planned for the Batman movies.
Well, and what's interesting about that, I don't know that it would be the right approach for the movies, because I feel like the Batman Begins version of the League of Assassins
Right.
is, you know,
Kind of like Court of Owls.
they are like a secret society, and you know, they even the way they say, you know, oh, weapons in Gotham were economics and this
Right.
and that, and that's kind of Court of Owls. It's kind of secret society.
I guess mainly I think the approach of the Court of Owls is that it sheds a light. It's not necessarily about them, but it sheds a light of what Batman thinks of Gotham. In that,
Oh yeah,
he always thought
that,
Gotham was his, and
yeah.
it kind of shattered his worldview of Gotham pretty much, in that he just didn't know the city as much as he thought he did. You know what I mean? And maybe if you approach the story that way, it feels different from the. But I see what you mean. Like, yeah, it could be repeating itself from the Batman with the Batman Begins, which I think, which I hope they're not doing again, because it feels almost as if they're doing a year one thing with Batman. May or may not be. I don't know. I mean,
Although that's the thing about these reboots, is that, you know, the reason that these movies, comic book movies, are so easy to reboot is because the comic books themselves have been rebooted so many times.
yeah.
So like, there's a lot, you know, if they're doing a Batman Year One, that could be the comic Batman Year One, or it could be this, which is Batman Year One,
Yeah.
or it could be any number, you know, the 1930s Batman Year One,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like the literal first year of the comics. Like, there's a lot of different origin stories they could choose.
I think the only producer that's kind of painted himself in the corner that could never really do a reboot. I mean, he can, but I guess why would he? Is Kevin Feige with the MCU? It's like,
Yeah, no way, never.
He's built up such unless he does like a sort of Secret Wars situation where
No,
the universe gets wiped out and then rebuilt, and then now he can start over. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think he'll ever do that anyway. I think he kind of wants to build that legacy of like, yeah, Tony Stark is gone, he's gone. Let's build up new heroes.
yeah, I remember around Iron Man 3 or so, they were talking about recasting.
Yeah,
We probably talked about it on the podcast a million years ago. But like, no, what's the point of having a cinematic universe if you're gonna have these characters get get younger every 10 years?
Yeah.
Like, and I think they're doing they're doing it the right way. You know, they've got Captain America is now Falcon, and that whole show is going to be about that,
Mm-hmm.
about how you don't just recast him because he's old and gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Um,
mean, so it's let's see how it works because Phase 4 was supposed to start this month,
yeah, we were supposed to have seen Black Widow already.
and Phase 4 keeps getting delayed. So we don't know. We actually don't know if people are gonna grasp onto this new MCU. We haven't got any piece of media from this new MCU yet. You know, you mean
Yeah,
because Spider-Man really was just an epilogue to Phase 3, so
sure,
it wasn't.
sure.
Yeah, it wasn't really like, oh, this is the new direction. It was more like, yeah, let's postscript. You know.
Honestly, I think the whole of Phase 4 is really going to be a, what do they call it, a development year,
Yeah, yeah.
where they're going to be like, hey, this is the new, like kind of like Phase 2 really was
Mm,
a development year. It was kind of like, hey, this is what the world is like after the Avengers.
yeah.
And I think Phase 4 is going to be a lot of this is what the world is like after Endgame. And a big part of that is building on Phase 3, which had all these standalone movies, but, especially in the latter half,
Mm-hmm.
expressed itself by having the characters pop up in
Yeah,
each other's movies.
yeah, yeah,
Hulk and Ragnarok and Doctor Strange, and all of that. I think you know was a real sign of where these movies were going to go.
yeah, yeah.
Iron Man in Spider Man,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that Phase 4, with Scarlet Witch being said to be a main character in
Mm-hmm.
Doctor
Doctor
Strange,
Strange, yeah.
and more that I can't. And the fact that they are casting characters without giving them movies yet,
Yeah, yeah.
like Blade. Like
Yep.
Blade's gonna pop up in a movie before he pops up in his
He
own movie.
probably pop up in if I had to guess, multiverse. He's gonna be Multiverse of Madness. Um,
I
it's
I thought
if
it was
it's
gonna be Black Panther too, on account of him being black.
they're not gonna they're gonna stay away from too
I'm
much.
kidding. I'm
I know,
kidding. Of
I know.
course.
Not
Um,
too much mystical stuff. I mean, I guess if they're gonna do the
isn't he
Namor,
Isn't he like a vampire?
yeah, but not like vampire demons and stuff. They probably keep that part more of a mystery, like whatever. But yeah, going back to Batman, I guess. But that was our MCU tangent. I guess
Yeah,
we
oh
could.
man, where's some Ben Affleck coming back? Oh,
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm
you know
sorry,
what
Ben.
he might, considering they're saying, aren't they saying the Matt Reeves Batman is just a Elseworld story? It's not really connected to the DCU.
It's all an Elseworld story at this point. What is the DCEU? Come
Yeah.
on.
So I guess we're never ever gonna get another Justice League movie. I guess, right? It's just whatever.
I would never say never because.
But then,
like,
what would that
there's
look like?
potential there, but a Justice League movie with those same characters depends on Aquaman 2 and Wonder Woman 1984.
If they do well,
If they do well, then they'll have the Flash. We'll see if that ever comes out. If Ezra Miller doesn't have a nervous breakdown
Jesus
first,
Christ.
whatever. Oh, goodness gracious, Ezra.
Yeah, he has too much free time on his hand. That's why it's like
Yeah.
chill, bro. Chill, bro.
Yeah,
Bro.
he's gotta take a chill pill.
Bro.
No, you don't choke slam girls. Don't do that.
I know you're in two of, I guess, Warner Brothers' supposedly biggest franchises, but bro, chill. Because according to many fans, you're like the weakest link of both of these things. Okay, you're the weakest link of Fantastic Beast, and the weakest link of Justice League. Because like we haven't really seen that much of the Flash, and what we've seen kind of looks ridiculous with the way how you run. Like, what the hell is that? But it was cool that he.
I think that was more because of Justice League. Kind of. I wonder how much of the Flash's visuals
Was Joss Whedon.
Yeah, and not even to blame Joss for that, but just kind of like Joss coming in with, not the budget of a $300 million movie.
Because you gotta believe that Zach, who's always like this vision of cool in all his movies, would come up with a better. Because he did with Batman versus Superman, right? How he just like basically. It looks like he's moving so fast that electricity just destroys the entire place. So you'd think he'll come up with some cool way to showcase his powers, I guess.
Yeah, with that, I think it was really just a case of they did the movie, they spent $200 million on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Zack Snyder said that he needed $30 million to finish
Yeah.
the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
So saying that they spent $200 million is like that's I feel like that's conservative. That's a
Mm-hmm.
conservative estimate.
Yeah.
And then Joss Whedon's brought on board, and what did they give him? 80 million, 100 million,
No, they gave him
maybe 150 tops. And he reshoots basically the whole movie.
right.
And and paying actors for reshoots, I bet is, at least in terms of like per day,
Mm-hmm.
more expensive than principal photography.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess that's just speculation on my part, but it feels like it'd be super expensive.
Right. Right.
And so they have not enough money to do a movie, and they have to do a movie with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see whatever Zach was doing for the Flash, and whatever Joss wanted to do for the Flash. It was kind of like, yeah, well, we only have this much money to do it with, so what do you want to do with this much money?
Yeah.
And Joss goes, oh, okay, well, let's do this instead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I do want to see that Snyder cut. Release the Snyder cut. Come on.
Me too. Me
HBO
too.
Max. HBO Max. Let's go, baby.
I was not a believer in the Snyder Cut until I did a bunch of stories on it for Screen Rant, a
Yeah.
bunch of news stories. Jason Momoa saw it. Kevin Smith wants to see it. Ray Fisher hasn't seen it, but knows people who have and who have said it's really good.
Yeah, yeah. It's too much evidence out there that it exists, so it's like we gotta see it. And the thing is, isn't just the additional shoots that he wants to do not necessarily special effects specific, but more to do with like there's story elements he wants to add to the movie that the 30 million will do it.
Yeah, I believe it's a case of I'm trying to think of the movie that it's kind of like where I'm thinking of well, Payback's not the best example, but the case of there was the way he wanted to do the movie then and the way the movie turned out, but if he did the movie now, it would be different from both of those.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wouldn't be his original vision, but it would be his original vision as seen through so many years later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it would be a lot of work. It seems, just based on the fandom on the internet, that it would be a slam dunk. We've seen that doesn't always pay off. What seems to be huge on the internet doesn't necessarily translate to mainstream appeal. But doggone it, he worked really hard on that. He tried, and I would like to see it.
I would go as far as to say, screw the $30 million. Just release what you have now, because maybe the $30 million that you get to do whatever you wanted to do with it now may ruin it. And let me just see what you have. Let's see what you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Zack Snyder. I mean, you're rich. You can afford it.
Yeah,
you got $30 million laying around.
I guess
the 300 money.
I guess the old adage is never spend your own money. Yeah. Like, none of these people want to spend their own money, because like, how would he get that back? I don't know.
Yeah, he likes his Ayn Rand. He likes his Fountainhead and all that stupid shit. Just do it yourself. Spend it. Work and be paid.
Right.
Or whatever.
All right, so
believe in.
Let's wrap up Night of Owl and talk about the epilogue, which is basically.
I almost texted you when I was reading it and be like, "Who's the girl with the earring?"
Yeah.
But then I was like, I'm sure it'll pop up later.
Yeah.
It's with all of these stories, I tend to feel like if they're doing their job, if something is important and needs to be explained to a newcomer, they will explain it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I felt the same way because when I was reading this first, I was like, oh my god, maybe this is a character they introduced before the new DC 52 thing happened and they're carrying over. I don't know who this person is. And then doing this week to week collecting, month after month. I think they were doing bi-weekly, or if they were doing monthly, I'm not sure. I don't remember, it was so long ago. But it took until... So she was introduced in issue 7. took until issue 12 before we got the story on who she is. So it took a while for us to like, oh, this is actually a new person, not somebody that was introduced back then. I mean, you could have probably did a quick Google search to see if she's new or not, but I didn't give a shit. So issue 12 came, and it's about, what's her name again? Shit, I forgot her name. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, anyway, but basically, she lives, and the reason why this issue is kind of like important to this discussion is that last week we asked, like, okay, so he's building this new initiative. Is it for the 1%er? How does it benefit poor people? And this, I guess, deals with it, like, in terms of like Alfred saying, yeah, he's trying to change the Narrows as well. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna create buildings for, like, you know, the 1% and high rises for people who wants to live in new penthouses and stuff. He wants to kind of reshape the entire.
Yeah, he's gonna gentrify the Narrows, so they'll have to move to Bloodhaven.
Tier, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I guess this dealt with, I mean, it didn't completely answer the question. Are those people going to live in the new places that he built, or is he sort of giving them a solution? Like,
well,
all right, you gotta get
Alfred
out.
says in you know, at the gala,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he says, you know, oh, you know, your neighborhood's going to be transformed
Right.
by New Gotham, or, you know, if that's even called a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he, you know, sorry, the cat just jumped at the TV because I have a little video for cats on.
Yeah.
he's doing that.
Oh, he's trying to get the fish.
Yeah.
Come here. God damn you.
Exactly. You know, it's a case where, you know, and she wins the ticket in the raffle, which is, you know, I feel like that is Bruce's biggest weakness, is just the fact that he doesn't. I feel like it's something where a lot of people in any kind of city who look down on the poorer neighborhoods.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, if we give, you know, if we do like a soup kitchen for a day,
Right.
or if we invite them, you know, if we have a fair at the park, or if we do something that makes them, you know, have a good time for one day, we understand them.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you gotta like live there. And like, yeah, Bruce Wayne, yeah, you know, you traveled the world and you did your whole thing, but if you wanted to quit, you could quit, and you could go and, you know, you could. Bruce Wayne could spend his entire life doing nothing and have enough money to live like a king forever.
Yeah,
if he wanted to.
His money is making money.
Mm-hmm. So, like, the biggest weakness, and something that I hope that they kind of explore at some point, we'll see if, you know, if Red Hood plays a part in this. You know, there's potential there because, you know, Jason Todd is from the wrong side of the tracks.
Right, right.
And
there's a little Easter egg too, and when she was going out, it says, "Go in a limo before somebody robs the tires of the limo." That was
really?
That was a callback to the first introduction of Jason Todd, in that Batman parked his car in the Narrows. Was it the Narrows or was it Crime Alley? One of them, and Jason took the tires off the Batmobile to sell them, and then Batman caught him, and it says, "You know what? You're a slick one."
You think that Batman would have protection on his tires,
right?
You know? Or maybe he bypassed it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how Batman saw that he was special.
It was in the 80s, so I don't think they thought about technology like that. It was like,
yeah. Batman was like, "Huh, Reaganomics should have cured poverty by now."
But yeah, she goes. I guess she didn't win the lotto. According to her, she got the lotto from her neighbor who she fixed something for, and she goes to the gala. Still not impressed with what Bruce did, but you know, I guess Alfred managed to make an impression on her with the cookies. And she comes home, sees her brother he's beaten up because he's gay. And then he's constantly getting beat up by the guys in the neighborhood until one of these days, he and his sister were walking home and they attack, but she built like this, I guess, custom made taser, but she manages to just electrocute one of them, but there was a whole gang of them. How are you gonna stop them all?
And then Batman shows
Batman
up
comes,
and saves them.
beat the crap out of them, and then from that day forward, I guess, you know, the brother was able to walk home without any kind of trouble. And she, from that day, she was like impressed, like, oh my god, I have to meet this guy, you know what I mean? And she did everything, detective work, to try to get any evidence of him, and realizing that the reason why he's able to kind of shut cameras down anytime he shows up is because he has control over the power grid. And you can't just hack into it remotely. You have to actually have a power line going through it yourself. And she finds one of his. It's just strange that he has the bat symbol on one of them. It's like, why? Why?
Because Batman.
It's like, why are you trying to advertise your brand? You right?
The Bat Box.
So she finds one and says like, oh, she can make it better. So just in case one line goes down, he can tap into another line. And then she sees that he's around somewhere because some line went down. She tries to help him. And then she does help him with Tiger Shark, is whatever his name is. I don't remember. I don't know that
Some
guy.
With a weird.
I thought it was Red Hood for a second, and I was like, no, it's not. And then.
Yeah, why are there so many different Red Hoods?
Well, there's a lot. There was Joker, who was one of them. There was one before Joker, I think.
But Joker's hood isn't even a hood. It's like a bucket.
Yeah. Either Joker was the first, or there was one before Joker, and Joker took it before he became the Joker. And then there was others, and then Jason Todd became the last Red Hood.
Yeah. What a mess.
Yeah. So, yeah, Batman stops whatever that villain was called and puts him down, but then he goes to the girl and says, "You're done." And it's like, "Oh, I purposely took off the circuit because
he's got a plan for everything."
Yeah, right. And then she says, "You almost messed it up."
She's hooked.
Yeah, she's
hooked because she helped him, and she did help him. God darn it.
Yeah.
I hope she pops up again, and I hope she doesn't get killed for helping again.
Yeah, cause she's hooked. She's like, oh man, I want to be part of Batman's family.
Man,
I want to be the new Robin.
So either she'll get to help out, or Batman will push her away in a very aggressive way, and cause her to be scared of him or fear him.
Yeah.
But be protected by not being too close, or someone will kidnap her and do horrible things to her. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah,
I mean, she will be back, right?
I don't know. I don't remember. Like I said, I don't even know if I got to that part. Like I originally got to the end of Death in the Family. I started Year Zero. I never finished Year Zero, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Because Year Zero,
the expert, man.
Year Zero is actually a longer. It's actually divided into 3 parts, so we'll read them into 3-part chunks. So that will take up after Death in the Family. That'll take up like most of our podcasts until we get to after Year Zero.
Okay. Well, so that's Night of Owls, and I'm gonna read the crossover issues, and maybe we can talk about that next week.
Yeah.
But what are we reading next week?
So next week, we could talk about the annual. You read it before, but I'll read it after. Batman Zero, I think, is next. After that
is the next issue.
And then I guess we'll read the Death in the Family. So it's actually how many issues is that?
Of the Family.
Death of the Family. Death in the Family was what's his name? Jason Todd dying.
Let's see. It looks like until issue 17.
So Death of the Family is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, we could do. It will be 6 issues for you, Batman Zero. So yeah, 7 issues for me, which is fine. So we'll do those 2 and Death of the Family.
Perfect.
And then,
yes.
Wait,
of the Family.
That's what I said. Death of the Family.
Oh, I thought you said in again.
Okay. Wait. Does Death of the Family? It ends at 17?
Yeah.
Okay, because so then we have loose issues before we get to year zero, which is
Requiem.
resolve, nowhere man part 1 and 2, and I guess ghost lights
I
part
don't.
one
I
and
don't.
two.
I don't see those.
So that's
I
18.
see.
That's 18, 19, 20.
Okay. My 18 says Requiem with a Robin's boots as the cover.
Oh, I think this. So here's the thing. I guess it's light spoilers here. When because Grant Morrison was still working on his, I guess, trilogy. That started with Batman and Son, and then continued with Batman and Robin, and then Batman Inc. Uh, Robin dies in that. Jason, his son. So I think this is kind of like, but it died in that issue. It didn't, and I guess every other Batman story that were going on,
Ah.
like Detective Comics, this Batman, Batman and Robin, which there was a Batman and Robin omnibus that I have there. It's awesome. Once they got to those issues where he died, there I guess they dedicated a few issues to, I guess, the RIP Requiem type. So
Mm.
I believe this is what this is that deals with that.
Okay. Okay.
So I guess year zero, we're not touching year zero for a while.
Well, year zero, there's 0 year starts at 21. If that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's it. So we're gonna do Death of the Family with along with the loose issues before, and then I guess we'll do 18 to 20, along with Batman Annual 2. Do you see that in your list before
Um,
21?
for me, Batman Annual 2 is in 0 year. It's after 22.
Oh, interesting.
Featuring the Anchoress, the Asylum, and 0 year.
Oh, interesting. I guess they're saying this chronologically takes place before it starts, I guess.
Hmm. But
So,
then there's also, I think you might have mentioned this last week, but there's a director's cut of 0 year number one.
I don't think the director's cut is in this collection, but when they say director's cut, it's pretty much just the issue, then the issue in black and white, and then like little stuff at the end, including maybe the script or something.
It says, this special edition features exclusive content not found in the original issue.
Yeah, probably like stuff that he wanted to include and then just didn't.
Uh-huh.
So after Death of the Family, we'll just do 18 to 20 before we do 0 year, because 0 year is a beast.
Okay, so for this week, we just want to do Death in the Family.
Yeah.
And,
For next
and
yeah
everything before
for
that.
for next week.
Okay.
And then we'll follow that, unless we could do, because if it's just, because 0 year again, it's broken down to 3 parts. It's Secret City, Dark City, and Savage City, right? Secret City is only 3 issues. So if you want, no, but then we want to discuss 0 year as its own entity. We don't want to. So we'll just do the resolve issues after Death of the Family on its own,
Okay.
and then we start 0 year on its own.
Okay, because we've also got the 0 year number ones with Joker, Riddler, Penguin, and Bane. So there are more.
Those aren't in this collection, but if I can find them, if you want to read them, or you just want to.
They're here, so I'll read them regardless.
Right.
And then we can kind of decide if they're worth talking about.
Right.
But for now, we'll just deal with up to 17.
Yeah, we're reading up to 17 for next week, and then the other week is going to be 18 to 20.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of this episode. It's great talking about some Batman. So until next week, you'll hear what we're gonna talk about. I don't know if you guys want to follow along. If you are following along, and where can people reach you at?
You can read my work at screenrant.com, and you can follow me at Twitter at my name, Zach Wojner.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Marky Tundra. Follow me on Instagram and on Facebook at Pop Culture Galaxy. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. And hit that follow button on Twitch.
Yeah. If you're following us on Twitch, if you're watching us on Twitch right now, I'm supposed to be streaming more, but I've just been really, really busy with work.
Yeah.
I will get back to streaming. It was great when I was streaming every night. I'm gonna try to get back to that. I've just been swamped these past couple of weeks, but we'll get back there. I promise.
Yeah. And I think we'll probably come up with a formal schedule in terms of sometimes I'll stream, like, because usually stream later at night, right? Or is that?
I usually stream later at night. I'm trying to play just with my brother a little more, and he's 7 hours ahead of us.
Right.
But just the way it's been working so far, I've been streaming late at night.
Like, would you say that would be your preferred? Because then, like, I could start doing, like, a 7 to 9 stream, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. stream, and then that'll leave any time after that for you to hop on.
Yeah, that would definitely be preferred, especially for now where, where I'm working a lot and I can't necessarily say, I'll be ready at 9 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
And so I won't be ready until 10, 11, 12. Ugh.
Yeah. All right, so that looks like a plan. We can work it out more as we go closer. So until next time, folks, I want to say peace.
Indeed.